Hey there, guys. Welcome to Diary of a Working Girl. My name is Cerise, and this is Storytime. Welcome to my channel. On my channel here, I have a variety of topics: storytime, travel and tourism, real estate and relocation, and also I'm a soul coach and a writer. So I always speak about meditation and relationship tactics and also anything that comes to mind. I love sharing a little bit of everything from my life with you guys. And this story that I'm sharing with you comes from Sosua, Dominican Republic, where I live. But this is in the hills of Sosua, and I'm not able to mention where exactly, but let's just call it near Los Castillos and Montellano in that general district. This story is a wild one, but not too wacky. I think we can kind of get the gist of this one. So tune in and stay tuned. If this is your type of thing, then please go ahead and subscribe and share the video. When you do subscribe, it is for free. But one thing I do ask you, like the video when it's done and also hit that notification bell so when I upload another video and it's one of your tastes, then you can definitely be notified. All right, without any further ado, let's get into today's story. We have three main characters. We're going to name them Kasha, the girl, the daughter. She's an adult daughter. And then we are going to name the mother Kira. And then we are also going to have a guy, and we're just going to name him, let's think of another K name, Kurt. So we have Kara, Kasha, and Kurt. So Kasha and Kurt, they met in Sosua. Kasha was a sex worker. She was a girl who was on the street, very young and rebellious. Her mom tried to do the best with her. Her mom had her at a very young age, and her mom is Kira, and Kira was cleaning houses for a living. She was a person who really wanted to take care of her daughter. She didn't want to be on the street, so she cleaned not only houses, but she also cleaned like hotels and resorts. And so she was working really long hours. As she was working those long hours, Kasha was just running wild and running free, not realizing the sacrifice that her mom was making for her. Kasha was also on substances, and so, her mom kind of lost the luster of raising her daughter in a Christian type of home. Her mom could only pray for her and hope that her life would get turned around. Now, when it comes to Kurt, he came to the Dominican Republic because he was on early retirement. Now, he caught that, you know, phase of cryptocurrency when it was doing really well. He invested. He was a guy working in New York. He was a dump truck driver and working very long hours from morning, noon to night. He owned his own truck company. So any extra money that he got, he threw it into cryptocurrency. He really believed in it. And wow, it was for him almost like overnight. It just took him a couple of years and he got millions, multimillionaire right now. And so he came to Sosua because he retired. What he did was he stopped working. He didn't let go of his dump truck company, but he just got drivers for it. And now he rents out his dump trucks as well to construction sites. And he lives here full term. So when he did come here, what happened was he met Keisha. And Keisha and him, they hit it off. He didn't know that she was using substances. He didn't know that she was a working girl. Like, how he didn't know, everybody is surprised. But he was new here and he met her in a casino and she, went up to him and she's like, "Hey, Poppy, how you doing, Amor?" And she was talking to him. She speaks perfect English and she's beautiful. And he was caught off guard. And because he was high on life with the money he got and he knew he was going to have money for the rest of his life and he just felt amazing. And he fell in love with her because he wasn't really looking to get with just any girl, and she had that magic he was looking for. Her beautiful face, her gorgeous eyes, her wonderful body, the way she moved, the way she danced, she mesmerized him. And that night they went home together, and he didn't want her to leave the next morning. She was like, "Okay, I gotta go." And she said to him, "Do you have a little bit of money for me?" She could tell that he didn't know she was a sex worker, like a working girl. She could tell that he had no clue. And so he was like, "Money for you for what?" And she was like, "Well, I need to take a taxi back to my house and I need to do a few things." And he was like, "Well, stay with me. You can stay with me." And she's like, "What?" And he's like, "Well, yeah." He's like, "Do you have a job?" And she said, "Yeah." And he said, "How much do you make on your job?" He also didn't know what the average income was here for a Dominican, which is usually like 500 pesos a day is a lot. 10 bucks a day is a lot. That's like not the average, but that's good wages for someone. And so she told him she was making 100 bucks a day. He had no clue that that was unheard of when it comes to the average worker. She was making that much because she was a working girl. And so he was like, "All right." She was even making more than that a day, but she just told him that price because she would have been happy with that price living with him, because he said to her, "I'll pay you that much. Stay with me for the week that I'm here, and I'll give you 100 a day just to stay with me. Can you get someone to take your shift?" And she was like, "Sure." So she pretended she contacted her co-worker, but really she just contacted her friend that works the streets with her, and she was like, "Hey, I'm going to stay here at this guy's house." So, she made it look real. She was just being manipulative. And so she stayed with him for the week. After the week, he went back to New York, and then he decided like he loved it here so much that he was going to come here full term. That's when he contacted me because I help people relocate, and I help them to find apartments and land and, condos and real estate, stuff of that nature. So he contacted me and he's like, "Listen, I met a woman. She is amazing. I really feel for her, and I want to give her a good life. So I want to buy a property there, and I'm going to be going back and forth, and I would like her to stay in the property while I'm gone. She has a mother that she takes care of. So, I would really like to have the both of them have, their own space when I'm not there. So I would like a place that has like a mother-in-law suite or a casita on the land." And I said, "All right, I'll take a look." And I found something for him. He fell in love with it and he came back down and he bought it cash, cold cash on the spot. Now, what happened was he decided to develop a relationship with her. She was loyal to him at first. She was doing everything that a woman would do for their king. And the mom was there as well. And so the mom didn't even have to work any longer. And they were really appreciative of him. He was taking them all around the island when he was here. When he did leave, he would stock up the fridge. He would make sure the electricity was paid. He would make sure that, all the comforts that they required and more was there for them and convenient for them. He would even leave them a couple of bucks each if they wanted to go shopping. Like he had no qualms with giving them money because the standard of living here is really nice, but the cost of living here is pretty amazing if you have a good budget. So he was just like, "Ladies, live it up." They were getting their hair done, they were getting their nails done. Now, Kira, when she had her daughter, she was very young. So the two of them looked like sisters. They were only 15 years apart and they looked like sisters. But Kira actually looked a little bit younger than her daughter because her daughter was already kind of aging a little bit, if you will. Now, don't get me wrong. She didn't look old. She doesn't look old. She still looks amazing. But being 32, she looks 32. Her mother, Kira, is 15 years older than her, and she also looks 32. So she looks great. And so the guy, Kurt, he wasn't trying to get with any of the ladies, like with both of them. He didn't have any intentions on being with the mom until, let me get to it. Spoiler alert. Yes. So what happened was, Keisha, she kept saying to Kurt, I want to get married because I miss you and I want to go back and forth with you to New York when you go. And he thought, why not? He misses her too when he's gone. So they did. They got married. And he was like, I'm going to bring you back and forth. It took a little while it took about a year for him to get her to be able to go back and forth with him, but it worked out and he was taking her back and forth. Then one day she was just like, you know, um, feeling sick, feeling ill, and they went to the doctor while they were in New York and they found out she was pregnant. And she was just like, I don't want to go back to the Dominican Republic. I want to have my baby here. I want to live here because Kurt did have a nice place in New York as well, beautiful condo. And so he was like, you know what? Why not? Like, live here. It's only going to be 9 months. Why not? So she did. She stayed during that 9 months. He did come back and forth because he has businesses here now as well by this point. And he would stay in his villa. And the mother, she just stayed in her casita. They never did anything romantically yet. Then, the baby was born, and Kurt said to his wife, Keisha, he said, I don't want my daughter, it was a girl he had, and he said, I don't want my daughter being raised in New York. It's just, it's not as traditional, and I'm going to be spending more time in the Dominican Republic now with my businesses booming. He has a lot of businesses here booming, and he said, I just want to make sure that we, you know, raise our daughter traditionally. I'm just pouring myself a little bit of coffee right now, guys. I digress. Drinking some Santo Domingo, and you can hear that rooster in the background. I love my coffee black. Okay, so she disagreed because by this point, she told him that she loves New York, and she did love New York, and she was telling him she's not ready to go back. And she told him she'll get a job and she'll provide for herself. And he was like, you know what? Like, if that's what you want to do, then get yourself a job. But I'm taking our daughter to the Dominican Republic. And that's what he would do. He would pack the baby up every single time he came here. He would leave the baby with the grandmother, who still wasn't working because he was providing for her. And the grandmother was gladly taking care of her granddaughter. And then when he went back to New York one time, unexpectedly, there was something going on in his condo. She had a new man, a Dominican man that she met, and he was in the condo. Now, their condo was a big one, it wasn't just some shoebox type of condo. So there were two bedrooms. He was in the guest bedroom shower, and she was in the kitchen cooking. When Kurt walked in, Kurt's like, who's in the shower? He could hear the shower going. And she's like, oh, my coworker. And he's like, oh, okay. So he went into the bedroom, the master bedroom, and he assumed it was a woman that was the coworker. So he went into the master bedroom. He started to get undressed so he could take a shower because he just came off a flight, and he was about to go into the master bedroom shower, but something told him to go into the kitchen. Like, he wasn't hungry. His wife was cooking, but there was just something that was nagging him. So he goes into the kitchen and she's not there. And now she knew his routine. She knows that when he gets home from a flight, even though she was not expecting him, she still knows when he gets home from a flight, he goes directly into the shower. So she went into the spare room to tell this dude to get out. And guess what? That's when Kurt's intuition had caught on. You see, not only females have good intuition, but so do men. And he's in the kitchen, and he's like, he starts smelling like men's cologne coming from the spare room. Now, even though it is a big, nice, gorgeous type of condo, he was still kind of like, why am I smelling this waft of cologne? So he follows the smell, and he smells like outside of the guest bedroom, and he's like, that's a man's cologne. So he opened up the bedroom door, and he saw her whispering to a man, saying whatever, and he's like, this is your coworker? Now, this coworker looked fine. He looked great. He still had his top off. He just had his towel wrapped around his waist, and he was one of those good-looking Dominican men. And Kurt wasn't so bad looking himself, but he could tell that this was not a coworker, and they were whispering. And he was like, you know what? You gotta go, buddy. And the guy was like, give me a moment, just let me get dressed. The guy spoke perfect English. He went into the bathroom, he got dressed, and he's like, I'm sorry, I didn't know that she had a boyfriend. Kurt said, she doesn't have a boyfriend. She has a husband. I'm her husband. And the Dominican guy was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I didn't know all this time. Kurt's like, all this time? He's like, well, yeah, like I've been with her for 6 months. And Kurt was like, what? 6 months? You know, the baby was only 8 months. So it was 2 months after she had the baby that she got with this man. And she did get a job like she said she was going to do, and she was providing for herself, but she didn't have to. Her money was just being banked. And so Kurt was just like, whoa. But the Dominican guy did tell on her, because the Dominican guy was in love with her too. He thought she was a millionaire, but here she was just married to one. And the job that she had was, get this, real estate. But it wasn't her doing real estate. She was doing like reception work. The guy was a real estate agent at the real estate firm. He was thinking, he even said to Kurt when he was leaving, he's like, I should have known that she was this type of woman. I was wondering, why, how does she have a place like this? And she's a receptionist, right? And he's putting on his shoes, and, you know, he's giving Kurt more information. And Kurt couldn't get mad at the guy. Kurt was just like, all right, buddy, you know what? Bye. So the guy leaves. Now, Kurt tells his wife, he's like, you know what? You and I are going to have to talk seriously. We're going to have a divorce, and we're just going to have to figure out what we're going to do. The baby, he just happened to leave the baby in the Dominican Republic, here in the Dominican Republic, on that trip, because remember, it was an impromptu trip back to New York, and he had to go back because of his dump truck business. There was some stuff going on with a few repairs that he had to do, and he always liked to be hands-on. And he knew that his wife was working, so he knew she wasn't going to be taking care of the baby, and he knew because it was impromptu, their caregiver wasn't going to be available. So he thought, just let me leave the baby with the grandmother. It's only going to be for a couple of days, right? So the baby wasn't there, and so he said to his wife, the baby will remain in the Dominican Republic. She was hardly taking care of it anyway. And he said, we will have a divorce. And luckily for Kurt, he did sign a prenup. So that was a great thing. And yeah, he told her, he's like, you can have this condo. That was what was in the divorce. Like, if they ever broke up, she was entitled to the condo. It was paid off for and everything. So he said to her, you know what? You can have this condo. I'm not going to fight you for anything, but we're done. He collected all his stuff. He was a very organized man, and he collected all his stuff, his watches, everything out of the safe, and all his clothes, his shoes, his hats, everything that he had, his jewelry, took it all, packed it all up in suitcases, and he left. He went and he dealt with his business. He drove his SUV. He put everything in his SUV. And then he went and he dealt with his business. And then he went straight to the airport, parked his SUV at the airport, and got on a plane and came back here to the Dominican Republic. When he got back here, he was hurt. He was hurt, but he spoke to his lawyer. His lawyer started the paperwork. It was very clean, the divorce, and it was very amicable. To be honest with you, I was really shocked, and I was like, wow, she didn't try to take him for anything else. She really couldn't at the end of the day because he had an ironclad prenup. But this is when he got back to the Dominican Republic, this is when him and the grandmother, Kira, started to connect. Kira said to Kurt, try not to feel so bad. You can raise your daughter, and I can help you raise your daughter. It's not a problem. It gives me a chance to really raise a child now without having to work so hard. And he said, what do you mean work so hard? Keisha worked hard and supported you. And she said, no. And she told him the truth. She said, I worked hard all my life. And my daughter, she ended up being on substances and she ended up being on the streets. And I'm so happy that you actually saved her. If it wasn't for you, she probably would have lived and died on the streets. And he was like, what? And she was like, yeah, my daughter was a working girl on the streets when you met her. You didn't know that? And he said, no, I had no clue. She was like, oh, I thought you knew this. You met her in Sosua at a casino. How come you didn't know this? Now, he still didn't know at this point, he still didn't know the flex in Sosua. He watched my YouTube channel and he watched another YouTube channel, like a guy called Mr. T, but he never ever watched any of the other vloggers. He was really just looking for property and tips and do's and don'ts. He wasn't looking for much else. He wasn't looking for Mango. He wasn't looking at the other guys' YouTube channels at all. So he was really shocked because on my channel, I don't talk about that stuff. And on the other channel that he was watching, that guy doesn't talk about it either. We don't talk about this type of stuff unless, of course, it's a story time on my channel. So he was shocked and he messaged me and he's like, Cerise, my mother-in-law just told me a few things. I'm wondering, is that true? And I was like, well, I don't know if that's true with your girlfriend. Your mother-in-law knows better than I do, but yes, it's a thing here. And he's like, wow, can you share a couple of channels with me that this is on? And I did. I told him a couple of people that, talk about this stuff on their channels. He was so shocked, but also relieved. He thought to himself, this makes sense. Was he naive? Absolutely. Was he a simp? No, not at all. He learned his lesson. And anyway, after he started to watch the channels more, everything started to fall in place. And then he called his ex and he said to her, he's like, why didn't you tell me the truth when we first got together? And she said, because, just like in the movies, you can't handle the truth. You wouldn't have been able to handle it. And he was like, were you taking substances during the pregnancy? And she said, no, that's why I wanted to stay in New York, because I wanted to be clean. I wanted to live my life clean. She's like, I haven't done any substances since I left the Dominican Republic. And he was like, okay. And she was like, that's why I want to stay here. I have a job. I'm working. Thank you for the condo. She's like, but I can't even visit the Dominican Republic. I never want to go back there again. The memories are harsh. And I'm just glad that I'm blessed right now. I love my baby. But, I just hope that you do visit me often so I can see the baby. And I hope that you send the baby to me so I can help raise the baby. And he said, no, I'm not going to send the baby to you ever. But yes, I will visit during summers with the baby. So that's pretty much it. He's living full time here now in the Dominican Republic. He goes back to New York very sporadically, only when he has to. He doesn't see her. He doesn't visit her. He doesn't talk to her at all. The grandmother talks to her, and they are divorced. Him and Keisha are divorced, and the grandmother, Kira, and him are going to be getting married. They hit it off. They've been spending so much time together, and he just loves her. They're more around the same age and they get along so well. So, there we go. He went from the daughter to the mother and he's raising his family and he's very happy. Seems like he got out of it clean, but he got a baby out of it, which is great because he always wanted a child. And also, all he had to do was give up his condo, which he was going to give up anyway and sell. So he's happy that he could give it to his ex and feel like he got out clean. Guys, anywhere around the world, make sure that you watch your back. Thank you so much for listening. Please subscribe. Have a wonderful day.